Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths in the field of consciousness. Their passion is to support your evolutionary growth and change. Join them as they talk about our individual and collective evolutions, explore what living consciously with energetic awareness means in our daily lives. Access with them a state of grace. There is no time, no space. Feel the warmth and acceptance and opening into infinite possibilities. Combining a broad collection of modalities and personal experiences, they share with humility and humor their appreciation for the body, mind, spirit connections that we call life. Now, here is Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett, is coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Oh, hello, everyone. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. You wouldn't know that. And I say that often, but it's true. It's gorgeous here.
It is. And regardless of when you're listening to it, we are experiencing inner beauty as well.
That's it. And it's all about time.
Exactly. We have a great show for you today about time and consciousness. We decided to talk about this because we just had, is it daylight savings time? Did we go from standard to savings or the other way around? We sprung forward.
Yeah,
we sprung forward. We lost an hour or so.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, you know, time is artificial and it's a made up concept, and our bodies go by the sun and the moon and seasons, and so we're all out of sync with this. You were talking about circadian rhythms. Yeah,
circadian rhythm, and we're talking about clock time, which was invented for the railroad systems, I believe. You know, how to get something from one place to the next, so you could count on it. So there became a standardized way of knowing when products were moving. So, which is important. It used to be someone.
Yeah, because like 150 years ago, it's like we were all going by the 24-hour clock cycle, but what was 1 o'clock, you know, in one place was different. It was just different, 5 miles down the road, and it was messing up with everything. Right. So they all had to come up with a standardized, time. That's when time zones started happening as well. So, and it's artificial for our physical bodies. We have this, you were talking about circadian rhythms before, and it's like we have this 24-hour rhythm that is in living things. It is related to how the sun rising and setting. We're attuned to the moon's schedule through the sky, which is really 28 days, not 30 or 31. And and so we're all messed up trying to keep to clock time for one thing. And then daylight savings time artificially changes this artificial schedule. And we all have like a day or so of feeling jet lagged, unless you live in Arizona.
I don't know what they feel in Arizona.
They don't have daylight savings time. So they just stay the way they stay just the way they are. So
they're just the way they are. So that's what we're talking about today. It's spring. We've had all these changes, and we want to honor that in some way. And we are playing with it.
Spring yet. Spring is on the 20th, so we've actually got 2 weeks.
But we're having early spring. We're having early spring. Some people are having late spring.
My relatives in Long Island and in Pittsburgh and Delaware not having the same experience. And if you're listening to us from Australia, we've got listeners in Australia. We've got listeners in Ghana, for Pete's sake. And you guys are having completely different experience as well. And that brings up a whole other thing to talk about in terms of time zones, because, the internet transcends time zones. So we're simultaneously talking to people all around the world, and the internet does that as well. So,
and the time it takes to communicate a thought, a feeling, is really different from the way we've perceived that in the past. So those are all and more we're going to talk about today, and we'll explore all this. And so what are those little nasty little announcements we need to make that aren't so very nasty. But what do we want everyone to know, Joan?
I don't know. It's like 50 Shades of Janet is maybe, who knows what your website really is about. But I want to let folks know that they can join us on Facebook and Twitter. You can go to Facebook and look up Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and join the group and join the fun. You can follow us on Twitter at Joan and Janet. You can also follow me on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. Give us your suggestions of things to talk about, and we will mention your name on the air. You'll get 15 minutes of fame, and we will answer your questions and be eternally grateful for the topics and suggestions that you have. You can also email us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com.
And let's see, I still have a new website out. I'm still looking for input about it. It's changing all the time, so please give it a buzz. If you'd like to be part of, both Joan and I write weekly about life, and you can subscribe to that weekly email at janetandbeyond.com or off the website janetandbeyond.com, and we'll give you a $25 discount on the first session if you'd like. And also you can get my top 10 tips, including and not limited to the following 28 ways to enjoy life, which I have found over this incredible career that I've had that are very helpful. And I've lived to tell the tale. And so I'm more than happy to share the wealth here on what makes life work. So please join us for that.
Right. And if you go to my website, joan-newcomb.com, you can book a reading and get a free book. I have 2 books out. And this is a paperback book. I will actually snail mail you a paperback book if you book a reading. I could probably send you a Kindle book as well. I just thought it'd be more groovy to have a paperback book. But if you book a reading, get a free book from me. And you can also sign up there to get tips for holding your own amidst all these difficult changes, how to hold your own, if you put your email in at my website. So that's joan-newcomb.com. That's a lot.
We'll be back in just a minute. After our commercial break, yes. We'll drop into heart and talk all about time.
Are you ready to take a quantum leap in your life? Joan Newcomb is a conscious mastery coach who empowers you to navigate life from your own inner wisdom using energy techniques. Contact her through her website, joan-newcomb.com, and take conscious mastery of your life today. That's joan-newcomb.com.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you're dealing with? Janet Barrett is a subtle energy empath. Feeling the energies present in your myths and language, she offers a supportive, non-judgmental viewpoint. Experience new ways to relate to and release the energies in those stories. Receive a $25 discount on your first session. Email Janet for an appointment at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. Come explore with Janet. New possibilities for a joy-filled life.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and we are talking about time and consciousness, and I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet.
Hello, everybody. Again, we are having so much fun. We are out of sync, out of time, out of money, out of whatever.
Well,
our poor studio engineer is just bouncing off the walls there, Doug. So hold on, everybody. This is really quite fascinating. It's always enjoyable to do this show and see what shows up and in the context of what we're doing. So, yeah, wow. Okay, so let's see what we're going to talk about today, Joan. Go for it.
Okay. Well, so what we're doing today is we're talking about time and consciousness, and so we talked about earlier. We talked about that just had a time change, and it's because I'm trying to type you something simultaneously while talking, but Just leave it to me to do the outros and intros is what I'm trying to tell you. So because I'm the one who's actually time conscious in terms of things, and I actually have an innate time within me where I will wake up exactly when I'm supposed to wake up. I will get out of bed exactly when I'm supposed to get out of bed. But and that has something to do with an inner time clock and with physical form. And we were talking about before the break, we were talking about, that man has created this artificial time. We've created this clock time that we've synced ourselves up to, and we've created this thing about time zones. And it's not natural to our physical body. Now, the point that we didn't mention before was about consciousness. And consciousness transcends time and space. There is no time and space as consciousness. And what I see is that, we create technology to try to replicate consciousness, and then that's when everything gets really snafu, because we're creating this really high vibration of technology. We're creating this experience of all of us connecting, through listening on the internet, communicating on the internet, which is just the way it is as collective consciousness, all our thoughts merging together. And yet, when we try to bring that through physical form, our bodies just go, we get burned out. We have to drink a lot of coffee in order to maintain this artificial time. We're out of sync. So, how do we hold consciousness in form, and how do we hold it in technology?
Well, I think it's all about being in sync. In heart space, we want to be there because we want to make choices, and that's being in sync with what is deep within us. Not what we're thinking about, but what we're truly connecting with on that level as consciousness, and us as experiencing our own consciousness. And this is what we're going to play with today, everybody. And so let's take a few moments here and just put aside the clock and put aside how you experience things. And I will have to say that each of us have a different sense of time. And I have a great sense of time. And I too wake up automatically and, that kind of thing. And I don't ever have to set a clock. I don't actually have a clock because I just say what it is I want and there it is. But in other mediums, that doesn't always translate because of what I'm tracking otherwise. So it's, and it's just tell me which clock to follow, and I do my best to do that. And then you go, oh, okay, you changed the clock. And so in tracking stuff, and maybe some of you are like that. It wouldn't surprise me at all. That's why we do things like caffeine and things to get us moving, to get in sync with the artificial setup that we participate in. So let's take a few minutes and let go of all that. And just see what happens as we drop into our awareness of our inner clock and our timing and our sense of timing, which can be very different from the next person. So that's why we like working with certain people, because we get in rhythm with them. We match our oscillations to each other, and you develop a shorthand and you feel comfortable with them. And if you're lucky, you have a lot of relationships that you can do that in. So just notice that. So be in relationship to yourself as consciousness is what we're doing here. So drop in, dive off the diving board, and just go for it. Just relax. Oh, for some reason I'm seeing the divers off the cliffs in Acapulco, so go for it, whoever's doing it. And
I was seeing otters.
Oh, whoa, okay. So we got lots of images out there. Just hit that water and just go down. See how life changes when you go into the water. And see that emotional terrain around you, the close-up colorations and fascinations and emotional terrain. And just swim out a little farther. And there it is. There's the bay. There's where it's all. And look at all that fascinating life out there. And we're all part of the all. And from there, just enjoy your swim. And that's what we'll do for the next 35 minutes or so. Just swim. So, your experience of time and how in sync are you with yourself? How many of you know that you don't like to get up in the morning because your rhythm is hitting you later in the day? And what would it be like that you could be more congruent in that flow? That's the circadian. Every living thing has rhythm oscillation to it. Circadian refers to the 24-hour sense of it. So those are patterns at play. So as consciousness, we're just patterns of information. So maybe just grab onto a different pattern, see what happens. How you doing there, Joan?
Good. I was swimming with the otters.
Yep. And they know how to play, but they're very industrious at the same time, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can be industrious and play in your sense of time. They probably don't have a sense of time. Well, they probably do have a sense of time. But it's not clock oriented at all.
Right.
It's just body oriented.
Yeah.
So, and they probably know when the fishes are close and when the fishes are far away. They probably have a lot of wisdom about their environment. So, what would it be like to have that kind of wisdom about your environment? I bet anyone who drives to work understands about the rhythm of traffic and what you're going to do in it and how you're going to negotiate it and how much time does it take to get from home to work and what kind of compromises and how do you feel about it and how do you manipulate yourself to go, and what about leaving, and there's another setup that you got to deal with. So this artificiality can be taxing our systems. Now, and if you're a person who flies a lot or travels a lot and can't keep up with it, and that's the thing about flight, is that you're shifting those gears. So, all kinds of goes crunchy at some point. So, all right. So where do we want to play with all that, Joan?
Well, we are looking at how can we hold our conscious awareness and manifest, inform, and handle technology.
Right. How do we do that?
Beats the heck out of me.
Really?
Well, there is something about being able to navigate through all this and effortlessly guide your body through it, because there's some people who just don't experience jet lag, and some of it, and yet there's also just, you were talking about your impeccable sense of timing, but you're very in your own rhythm with it. So so you move from one thing to the next, and you're integrated within yourself. So you are who you are in every situation, and you totally bring your presence to it. So what would it be like for other people to have that experience?
They'd be dizzy. They don't want to be in here.
Well, and there is something, I think that's the other thing to let folks know, is that collectively we have been going through this expansion as collective consciousness. We have been raising our awareness. And so there are some things that we are out of sync with now because they are denser, they are limitations, they are not in harmony with the essence of who we are. But I'll tell you, they're also not in harmony with your physical body either, and they never were. So these are things to do with like your identity and the roles that you play and right. Things like that.
Well, and just watching last night on the news, this dates us, but maybe not, about Apple's new watch coming out.
Oh.
watching the display of it. And, you know, everything's happening in milliseconds and things are changing so quickly. And our brains operate like that and probably operate faster. But there is this time that it takes to hit the optic nerve and bounce back there and then interpret it. And there is some sense of, okay, it's not instantaneous when we have to track it in our awareness on some level. And you can get informational overload. You can't sort it all out, so you have to start to get selective about stuff. And that changes your perception of who you are and how you are in your world. And especially if you're in a relationship with someone, and my inner sense of being resonates very differently than my husband's, for instance. We're about as opposite as you can get in that. So he literally thinks slower than I do. And we've been dealing with that one for almost 40 years here, you know, and it's like, really? That's, you know, because you can really just see it's just amazing.
1001, 1002, right.
And it's taken me a while to appreciate the way he is and the way his body reacts. And so I can give him his space in the morning, because he can take an hour and a half before he goes to work. He gets up just so that he has his way of couching his day in his body to get it going. Me, I'm in and up and makeup, dressed, whatever, out the door in 20 minutes. I've already done two laps by the time he's just getting up. And so that makes a difference in how we experience our reality and what we think is reality and where we are with reality. So we want to check in and see how people are doing out there. It feels very hurried, so I want everybody to just slow it down. When you sit in the stillness and the quiet of sacred space, which is what unified consciousness is, there's no sense of time there. And so you can lose your sense of who you are. And that's what Joan was talking about in our identity of where we have to be and when we have to be there. And just allow yourself to be here.
You know, the other thing that it occurs to me, you mentioned that it's spring, though in Australia it's not.
Yeah,
it's still winter up until the 20th. And I was thinking how this applies to both hemispheres, because I notice in my own rhythm that things start to accelerate in March. But I also noticed that things start to accelerate just before Christmas as well. So there is something about the equinoxes that create an acceleration. And so we're now talking about astrological weather, which is still a physical measurement in a way. Astrology talks about how the planets vibrationally influence us, and we can validate that by knowing just how the moon in the moon cycle affects the planet's tides, and then you can see how people's moods change at the full moon. Any grade school teacher knows their kids are going to be bouncing off the wall at the full moon. So and the moon's closest to us so that we can actually see those influences, but the planets have their own vibrational influence as well. And the way I relate it to it as consciousness is that it's astrological weather. It is just telling us, just like the clouds in the sky are going to tell us whether it's going to rain or snow. We experience these things astrologically as well. So the winter time tends to be a period of dormancy, and then things start to accelerate. Things start to wake up in the spring, and we're in the Northwest anyway. We're experiencing the nature waking up around us, and so we're experiencing that acceleration. And I would guess that the lower hemisphere, which is going into the opposite season, is experiencing its own sort of form of acceleration too as it's going into its own cycle.
Well, I wonder how much our bodies reflect those those hemispheres, right? Because we have north and south hemispheres within us. Yes. And how the body is structuring itself. And that's what we're talking about, circadian and those 24-hour ways of observing mental cycles and physical cycles, etc., emotional cycles, and that we are cycling through things. So that's why what happens in our sleep and at night and our period of rest is important, because when we don't have to think about things probably work a lot differently than our forced belief systems onto something. Are those unconscious and non-conscious states?
It's like our bodies need to recharge. And as consciousness, we're still going. There is no 24/7. We're still going. We're experiencing things as consciousness. There's a level of the astral plane where we bring back the weird experiences of dreams. Really is our interpretation of what we've been doing on the astral plane. But we also experience, experimenting with different futures or taking classes and workshops. So we have fun on that level as well. And so consciousness doesn't need rest, but the body needs to, it just needs to shut down and reboot.
Well, I think probably as part of consciousness is that it does rest. I mean, or what we would call rest is that it's those ebbs and flows, and there's something always happening, yes, and something's always happening, and something's always happening, and whether it's with an awakened sense of it or whether it's an unconscious sense of it, something's always happening, and it's just feeling that vibe, and it's slowing down. You're doing a great job, everybody. We just want to relax. And do you have time to relax? Well, that's an interesting thing. Do you have a habit of relaxing? We are always in tension. Tension is inherent in anything in living. It's stress when it's a lot of tension, and it's relaxation when there's less tension. So we get our language mixed up a lot of times. So we use words incorrectly. So we're always tension, but how tense are you? Is really the question. So I can feel this, and if you could see me, you would see my hands moving, and I'm just going to untwist something slowly for all of us. Well, let's see what happens as this untwist. There's a spot there where it's hooked. All right, so we'll just acknowledge that place. So there's a sense that if I relax, I'll let go of something. Yes, exactly. It's okay, everybody. It's okay. What if it was okay to let go of whatever you think, which is the problem right there? What if you just let it go? Let it rest. Because sometimes, that watch pot boiling thing where it doesn't boil when you're watching it. You have to let your focus go off of it. So something can be different. And as consciousness, we have all these different degrees and distinctions and discernments and judgments. So we're just going to allow, okay, that's getting smoother. There's a lot of coolness in the belly area of us. So one reason we speed up things is so that we don't notice what we feel like, what we're thinking about, or how we are feeling about something. So what if it was okay to notice how you feel about something? It's about how to be emotionally, with your emotions constructively. So we're just going to relax this. There we go. That's good. Ooh, okay. There's something letting loose there. So we'll just make that space. I think we have a fascinating show, Joan. We're the only one on the air that I know about that allows for the quiet and the stillness. So the calm, right? Just notice what's there, everyone. It isn't what you think it is anyway. And it's just something you're feeling and been holding on to. And as this collective listening audience in a different time, place, and space, which there is none of, we are allowing for something to be different. What if you were in rhythm with your inner self? Oh my, what would that be like? Well, business would be different. What if you could go to work and put your 8-10 hours in when you were wanting to be there? What if you had flex time? Oh, that's getting really nice. That softens.
Yeah. What if you're doing exactly what you wanted to do?
Mm.
And we're triggering a mass revolution and everyone's leaving their offices. Going outside. Standing in the sunshine.
Grabbing onto a tree.
Hugging trees.
And if you have no tree, your cactus. Whatever it might be.
Getting on planes to warmer places.
Yeah. Now, there's some people who like cool places. There's some people who like snow. There are some people who revel in that. So we want to embrace them also. It's not just about the sun. And that's another thing, because in the rhythm and those oscillations, for a lot of variables, and if you have this inner peace, then your environment doesn't really matter. It's a gorgeous day wherever you are. But we do want to respect that people do have different senses of time. So let's see, what if you had a different sense of time, whoever you are? What if your sense had a different sense of time? How many are living on someone else's schedule?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. How many of you are fitting yourself into someone else's schedule? And so what if we could let go of that and you could be in rhythm with someone else's schedule? What if your rhythm had flow and flux to it and could match up? So there's no resistance in that schedule. There's just flow. So everyone, just think about something that you have to show up for that maybe has a sense of unwillingness about it. And in this context, let's just put it out there and just look at what it is. What are you resisting? Resistance is futile. So that one thing, just be in rhythm with it and see if it changes.
Janet, I started remembering that old movie that's on TV a lot, Office Space.
Have I seen that?
And it's all about existence in cubicles. These guys, they work for some tech thing, and he gets he's at a group therapy session with his girlfriend, and he gets hypnotized, and then the therapist has a heart attack in the middle of it, never brings him out of this hypnosis state.
Okay.
And so suddenly he is walking around in Hawaiian shirts, and he is on his own time, and he goes back to work in this state, and immediately gets a promotion, but it doesn't sink in with what the boss was thinking or anything like that. And what if we all were in that kind of rhythm, and the world doesn't fall apart when you step into that rhythm? It's almost like things fall together. Talking about resistance is futile. It's like when we're in resistance, we are actually creating the thing we don't want to happen. We're solidifying the we're solidifying whatever we're resisting. And when we let go, those barriers dissipate. It's also, it's like when we're trying to find something or create something, and when we stop looking, it shows up.
Well, you were talking about all those people leaving work, and what I flashed is on all the people who wanted to go back to work because
yes.
they were enjoying themselves. They were being stimulated. They were in the flow of the project that they were working on, because there's that too, right? There's all these variables in there, and a lot of people enjoy their work. And when it's a good day, when everything goes just right. Well, in being in heart space and in that flow of being in alignment with how you feel about something, how you express it, how you think about it, everything just starts to flow and different things start to happen. And we're offering to all our listeners how to be in that on a regular basis in whatever you're experiencing in this daily life. And then things do get easier and you do find the rhythm. And that's often, when I'm making the phone calls and it's not connecting. We're out of rhythm. It's the wrong timing. Something's off. And if I make an adjustment because I'm holding enough awareness, I'm not getting what I want, and this is the third phone call, it's time to change. Either it's time to do it now, or my sense of what was pressing me to do it now shifts, and I let it go to the time when phone calls start happening. I've used that a lot. I used to beat myself up about, I didn't get what I wanted, or, and that just makes a lot of effort and hard work, and, it doesn't feel very good. So I tend to look at that. Yeah.
You were talking about people who want to go to work, and we also have gone through this phenomenon, and this has happened globally as well with the economy, but with lots of people being out of work, and some people being out of work for years. Mm-hmm. And the thing I actually saw about that was that people created being out of work when they weren't vibrationally in sync with it's like the work they were doing was not in alignment with consciousness. Right. And so a lot of them never found another job because they kept applying for the same positions they had before. Right. But instead, then they created their own business, or they got some other job that didn't have the same prestige, but internally was more in alignment with their values and the essence of who they are.
Well, and it's, we're not making judgments because everyone is different, but there's also those people that never find their footing again because they're stuck in the old timing. They don't make their judgment. We see that a lot with retired people, for instance, that are used to having a certain habituated response to life and what they focus on, etc. And then all of a sudden they don't have that mechanism any there, and they haven't desensitized themselves to a new flow. So you see a lot of people that don't recover from retirement. It's what they've strived for, that ideal out there. But once they get there, they don't know how to deal with it. And, finding repurposing or redesigning what they get to focus on now. There is definitely a sense of how you interact, and that sense of interaction can have that flavor of time about it. Time expands, time contracts, time does lots of different things. So it's definitely mutable. It's not always, just the standardized 1 minute. I mean, look at all you can feel in a minute, for heaven's sakes. You can have a lifetime in a minute.
And I suspect a minute used to be a lot faster than it used to be, and we're now measuring things in micro minutes, and that wasn't the case before. But when we are operating as consciousness, time expands, so a minute does get longer. So That I think that has naturally happened as we are more expanded consciousness. Then time becomes kind of rubbery and malleable.
Mm-hmm. This is feeling very nice, Joan. People have really just kind of gone there. I love it. You can really check that. So everybody noticed that breathing's getting really quite restful. It's time to start to come back out of it.
You can keep the good feeling, but you can come back so that you can operate heavy machinery and walk outside.
Right. Okay, so as you put down what you were doing in this restful state, or this slow motion state, or the state where everything's expanded and you can see clearly because you're not feeling pressurized, because time's really a pressure, and it's creating false boundaries. So just those have just really kind of relaxed here. I really am liking this. And as you come back and hold that awareness as you take it back into your day. So come back. Notice that emotional terrain now as you turn your swimming back to the magic portal there. Yes, notice that terrain. And it just seems there's like a lot of blue water and some really special looking fish now. Lots of color. And as we come back, there you go. Take a breath. And just notice how relaxed those shoulders are. How you're deeper in your belly and your breathing. How you kind of let go of some things. And they're easy enough to pick up again. So just come back. That was almost like a snooze, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that really lets you know how you can be in heart space, you can be in conscious awareness, and how to just effortlessly navigate through time and space. And then suddenly it's not such a big deal. And things fall into place. Things happen effortlessly and perfectly without you having to push the river, you know? You're not pushing the river. Yeah.
It's giving yourself time to notice them doing that, right? So that's part of it is allowing that space for you to see the wonder in your life, to feel the wonder in your life. Because so often things are so fleeting and it catches your attention out of the corner of your eye, and by the time you look, it's already gone. And you go back, and then it shows up again, and this time, you see it. There you go.
Right.
So what is...
Being in the present moment is what we've been talking about. So when you're right in the present moment, you see it, you're in perfect harmony with all that is, and it actually it feels relaxed like we're feeling, and it's not painful.
And there is no time in being present, is there?
Right.
Yeah. It's already passed already.
and yet you can get stuff done, which is it's the opposite of what your monkey mind is telling you. Right. You know.
Yeah, that feels nice, everyone. Very nice.
Yeah. So we are starting to slide into home. We're slowly, effortlessly, relaxedly sliding into home. So hold this space of relaxation, hold this awareness as we go into another commercial break, and stay tuned because we have a lot more to cover as we play in this awareness.
Are you ready to take a quantum leap in your life? Joan Newcomb is a conscious mastery coach who empowers you to navigate life from your own inner wisdom using energy techniques. Contact her through her website, joan-newcomb.com, and take conscious mastery of your life today. That's joan-newcomb.com.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you're dealing with? Janet Barrett is a subtle energy empath. Feeling the energies present in your myths and language, she offers a supportive, non-judgmental viewpoint. Experience new ways to relate to and release the energies in those stories. Receive a $25 discount on your first session. Email Janet for an appointment at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. Come explore with Janet. New possibilities for a joy-filled life.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm Joan Newcomb, along here with Janet Barrett. And Janet and I are leading edge creators in the field of consciousness technology. And we have been talking about time and consciousness.
What are we noticing about it right now, Joan?
We are noticing that time is marching on.
Time does all kinds of different things, doesn't it? What does that look like exactly? Time marches on.
Well, you know what? Here's something I just flashed, because I just saw a thing about a woman who is just in Japan, and she's the oldest person in the world, and she's just celebrated her 117th birthday.
Wow. Give her
what
a
is time
applause.
like that to her? And the other thing I remember reading once or seeing once about trees. You know, trees are hundreds of years old, and so they have a different experience of time because they're experiencing all of this happens, you know, in blinks of an eye, and yet they continue. So what would it be like if we realized we had infinite amount of time to get things done here?
What if there was infinite amount of time? Well, you know, what you'd probably notice is that you did less, right? Because it's no pressure to do more. It's just like...
Wait, but you can get more
and not
done.
in a bad sense. Not in a bad
Right.
sense. You know, it's like...
It's like more gets accomplished because you're not spinning your wheels.
Right.
You're not doing
Right.
busy work.
Right.
You're actually doing the energy of manifesting in form, of creating in body.
Well, and you're in the rhythm of it. And
You're having more fun with it. You're enjoying it.
Yeah, so you're in a whole different state of reality with that list. Now, I'm a list person. I love lists because they kind of keep me anchored, and I feel real good checking things off the list. And you know, it's like my joy is, oh, can I get that done? And as I've gotten into whatever state I've gotten into, I don't generate lists so much anymore. And it's like, okay, things are just kind of slowed down, and you do them as you come to them. And maybe I'm retired, I just don't know it. It's just a different way. So you notice things differently. But I love that idea of being 117 and what she remembers and what she's forgotten, what she's let go of because it's not important, and it might have been in the moment, but it isn't now, and what wisdom she has to offer, even if it's just this, oh, well, you live through it and then you die, right? The tree doesn't judge, I don't think. I don't think they have that kind of consciousness. I think they just are. They just have this sense, you know, this sensory. They're in a whole different informational state in the rhythm. They're busy noticing whether they sprout and when they sprout and what they do with that and in their process. Yeah, those are lovely references about time.
Yeah, I have a funny story because I keep thinking about how it feels to be in the present moment. And so Eckhart Tolle lives in that present moment. He is completely in the moment and in the experience. And he lives up in Vancouver, BC, with his partner Kim Eng, I think is her name. And so she told a story once of doing the recycling, because here in the Northwest we're all very mindful about that. So you have to sort, you know, you're recycling out to get ready for trash day. And she just goes out there and she gets it done. So she was out there with Eckhart one day, and she's busy getting it done. And she looks over at him, and he is picking up one piece and examining it, and then putting it in the container, and then picking up another piece and examining it and putting it right in the present moment with it.
Right.
So, two people can have heightened spiritual awareness. They're both really advanced people as far as that goes, and a completely different awareness of timing.
Well, what they're demonstrating is appreciation, right? That's the first thing I get hit with, is that he's really involved in honoring whatever he's getting rid of. And it's like, well, that's really neat. We get so excited about something new, and we rip it all apart, get the wrapping off of it, and throw that away. And I'm one of those. I'm always collecting the wrapping, because it's like, okay, it took time. I feel bad that a tree died to sit in my cabinet for a year, and then I wrap it in 10 minutes, and then I put it out, and there it is, and then it's done. It's that kind of thing. So the time is a way we give value to things. He's taking time to appreciate what is in his life, and I love it. It's a very Zen approach, it sounds like to me. And it takes time. It's all right to take time. It takes time. I'm seeing, for some reason, washing a spoon, and the rhythm and the just, in those simple things of what it is to take time to wash a spoon.
Yeah.
Interesting. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think earlier you were talking about tracking different things, and I will do that as well. I'll track different people I know, different relatives and loved ones around the world. And it's been exacerbated because I'm planning this trip to Europe to both go visit my son who lives in Madrid, and to take my mother's ashes to the places that we lived in Europe, which is Germany, Germany. I'm not going to France. Germany, England, and Sweden. And so I have been tracking my son, which is a 9-hour time difference, as well as I actually felt when the hotel person got the email I sent them in England. So it's there, and I have been having an accelerated feeling of anxiety because I have all these little details I want to get done before I leave, and other things have been coming up that have been taking my attention away from that. And what I am noticing is things are falling into place anyway. If I just dropped into heart space, took a deep breath, was in the present moment, I would get so much more done than running around like a chicken with her head cut off, which is what the experience has been like.
Well, it can feel like that, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be that, but it can feel like that. So everyone, we want to thank you for joining us for this. These shows feel great. I mean, now this is something we look forward to. We get excited about it. We plot and plan what we're going to talk about in a very expansive sort of way. So we appreciate all of you that are listening and being part of this with us as we co-create and notice all the rhythm of life out there that we all are in.
Yeah, and so a few things just to remind you is that you can find us on Facebook by finding us as Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You can join the group and join the fun. You can follow us on Twitter at Joan and Janet. You can also follow me on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. You can go to my website, joan-newcomb.com, and look at the groovy new offers there. And you can go to Janet's website, which is janetandbeyond.com, and see all the exciting things that she's been doing as well. And you can email us your suggestions, consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com, because we'd love to hear your topics and your questions, and we'll answer them on the air.
And we have a lot of fun. We want you to have fun. Time is timeless in our world. Space is spaceless. Dimension is dimensionless. It's just about being.
And dementia is timeless as well.
We don't have time for that, Joan.
That's another show.
Or maybe we only have time for that.
It's adventures in dementia and effort.
Bye, everyone.
Well, you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan Newcomb, and that was Janet Barrett, and we'd like to thank you all for joining us on Consciousness Expressing and Evolving.
And we'll see you next time. Or hear
same
you
time,
next time.
Same time, same channel.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Thanks so much for helping to co-create the show. No matter whether you're tuning in live or listening on demand, you energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next Wednesday for another great show at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and 10 p.m. UTC.